What exactly is the structuralist narrative theory? The theory that we all study, the theory that everyone on YouTube talks about, and all of the masterclasses and all of the structuralist work that it's founded on. What exactly is that theory? Let me talk about what exactly it means by a structuralist narrative theory. What does that mean? Okay, so the way I understand it is it's the way in which we understand how a story is made. The theory of it is that, well, it's the structuralist's idea that is the theory of how a story is made, or how it can be best made. So it's those ideas that we will rely upon. Okay, so what are those ideas? A lot of the terms that we use go all the way back to figures like Aristotle, who came up with things like plot. Some of the terms that we use for genre, like drama, comedy, tragedy, and those ideas, while he's not known as a structuralist, he is technically a structuralist. The way in which he looked at stories, the way in which he analysed elements of stories is very, very similar to the mindset and the perspectives that the structuralists took in the 1900s and the early 2000s. Now, what the structuralists, this is very important, if you really want to understand how our understanding of how a story is made and where all of these terms come from, you really have to understand this. What the ideas of the structuralists were is based off of this philosophy. If we analyse stories, we will be able to find rules and structures that will give us ways of understanding stories, ways to categorise the story, the elements of stories. And that's what happened, which then led to ways of understanding how we can construct stories from those named elements. So that's the idea of the structuralist. If we analyse stories, we will find rules and grammar and ways to understand what a story is made of and how it can be constructed. So one of the most prominent works of the structuralist thinking is Joseph Campbell. He analysed lots of myths and found patterns amongst all of those stories and cobbled it together into this sort of meta story that is now called the hero's journey. Now, all that is a sort of qualitative analysis of lots of stories where you find all of the common elements, especially the most significant elements, but he found these from myths, which we now use as a structure to structure stories. So we have this pattern, this sort of meta story, which is the hero's journey, and the writers take this pattern and say, here's our structure, we're going to fit ideas into it. So the structuralist narrative theory is the theory of how we can make stories, or how we can construct stories using structures, using the rules and the grammar that the structuralists came up with after analysing stories. Okay, so the mindset of writers now, all of the terminology, they are all remnants of the structuralist narrative theory. It's not really a term that's widely used, but it's the correct term. It's the theory of how a story can be made using the structuralist work, using structures and grammar. Does that make sense? And it leads to the mindset of constructing a story, kind of like you're constructing a roller coaster ride for an audience. That's the structuralist narrative theory in a nutshell.